Close your eyes for a second. Now picture this. Wayne drops Thaw Carter 6. And instead of the world erupting in fire emojis and wheezy wheezes, the timeline goes quiet. Real quiet. Not respectful silence quiet, but awkward family dinner and nobody's touching the food quiet. Something's off. And it's not just the bars, the beats, or the energy. It's something deeper. We're not just talking about a bad album drop. We're talking about the unraveling of one of the greatest legacies in hip-hop and a warning shot that came years ago from a man many called a hater. Pusha T. Yep. Mr. Daytona, the king of surgical diss tracks. The man who told us the truth and got roasted for it. But now, it's all playing out line for line, just like he said. So let's go full autopsy mode on this saga. No scalpel left unused. Tap like if you're ready to go deep. Because this isn't just about Wayne. This is about the entire machine behind the artist and the damage it leaves behind. Let's rewind to the track that sparked this whole storm, Infrared, off Daytona. Pusha T wasn't throwing random shots. He was loading up years of industry dirt and spraying facts like bullets. Oh, now it's okay to kill baby. N-words looked at me like I really killed a baby. That's not just clever wordplay. That's a direct dig at Birdman. And behind the line, years of exploitation. Then he drops the hammer. A flash without the fire. Another multi-platinum rapper trapped and can't retire. Chills. He's painting a picture. Wayne, one of the greatest to ever do it. Still trapped. Still working. Still on tour. Still trying to prove something when he shouldn't have to. When the fire should have already bought him peace, but it didn't. Because Wayne, like many others, signed contracts that turned his mic into a leash. Pusha was calling it years ago, and everyone ignored it. Why? Because nobody likes the guy who yells fire until the house is actually burning. And now? Wayne's career smells like smoke. Let's go deeper. That flash without fire line isn't metaphor, it's prophecy. Because Wayne's been dropping albums for years. And while the flash still shows up, the chains, the dreadlocks, the cool factor, the fire that made him Wayne feels like it's flickering. And the saddest part? He's not alone. Many artists get caught in this cycle, touring non-stop, recording endlessly, not because they're inspired, but because they have no choice. Contracts, advances, debt, labels that treat artists like rental cars. Even Kanye once said he couldn't retire, couldn't stop, because of how bad his paperwork was. So what makes you think Wayne's situation was any different? Here's where it gets really messy. Back in Exodus 23 verse 1, Pusha T took off the gloves and said it plain. You signed to one N-word that signed to another N-word that signed to 3 N-words. Now that's bad luck. That wasn't a diss. That was a diagnosis. It exposed the truth behind the smoke and mirrors. The fact that one of hip-hop's top dogs was shackled by a chain of middlemen, all taking bites out of his pie. Birdman had Wayne on a puppet string, and nobody said a word. But let's get real. There's a difference between being managed and being molded. And Birdman didn't just manage Lil Wayne, he groomed him. And yes, we mean that in more ways than one. Let's talk facts. There's an old interview where Wayne, as a kid, talked about how Birdman and others forced him into a situation with an older woman. He laughs about it now, but that's the trauma laughing. You don't need a psychology degree to see what was going on there. That's not mentorship, that's manipulation. And in the industry, that kind of power play doesn't just affect your personal life. It seeps into your business, your confidence, your identity as an artist. Birdman took control of Wayne's youth, his voice, and eventually his money. And that brings us to the next big betrayal, the young thug switch-up. Picture this. Wayne's gearing up to drop the Carter 5. The world's waiting, the culture's hyped. And then, boom, Birdman stops it. No rollout, no release, no explanation. Instead, he starts pushing Young Thug like a carbon copy. New dreads, new tats, new voice. And guess what? Birdman starts calling him the new best rapper alive. That's not a coincidence. That's a calculated move. He iced out Wayne, the very artist who made him a mogul, and tried to replace him like some off-brand action figure. Wayne had to file a lawsuit just to get the album out. That's not family, that's corporate treason. So when Pusha rapped about being the liar while everyone else stayed silent, he wasn't wrong. He was the only one calling out the fire while the rest of hip-hop kept sipping champagne with the arsonist. Enter rickRoss. When things hit the fan, Ross didn't hold back. He dropped "Idols Become Rivals" and let it fly. How the F you touch $1 billion and your whole team's starving? Man, that line cracked the whole Birdman fantasy wide open. He exposed the bling empire for what it was, a flashy facade propped up by artists who were broke behind the scenes. Ross even addressed the fake watches, the illusion, the idea that if you make it flashy enough, you can lure in the next generation and trap them the same way. Now ask yourself, how many new rappers are walking into that same trap right now? Tap like if this got you heated. Smash subscribe if you've seen artists you love fade not from lack of talent, but from being used up by the system. Let's stay with rickRoss for a second. In his Billboard interview, he didn't just throw shade. He opened up the blinds on the whole game. I just think it's so effed up seeing Lil Wayne suffering through that. I think we all got used to it. Pause. That line right there? We got used to it. That's the tragedy. We watched one of the greatest rappers of all time get stalled, shelved, and sabotaged, and after a while, we just accepted it. We got used to Wayne not dropping albums. We got used to seeing him tour endlessly without new heat. We got used to him being stuck. And the game just moved on like it was normal. That's why Ross went so hard on Birdman, because he knew if he didn't say something, no one else would. Pusha said it. Ross said it. But everyone else? Quiet. Because Birdman wasn't just Wayne's father figure. He was the gatekeeper. And speaking against him meant risking access, risking opportunity, risking your own bag. So silence became survival. And this is why Ross's line hits like a gut punch. You on an island, your whole team starving. He wasn't just talking about Wayne. He was talking about a broken system. Artists putting their blood, sweat, and tears into building a legacy, only to end up broke, shelved, or discarded. And Birdman? Still shining, still vacationing, still pretending everything's all love. Nah, this wasn't just poor leadership, it was predatory. And what makes it worse? When Wayne needed support the most, even his own proteges started acting funny. Now, we're not saying Drake directly betrayed Wayne, but look at the pattern. Wayne gave him the keys to the kingdom, gave him the cosign of a lifetime. And when Wayne was deep in legal hell with Birdman, fighting just to release music, Drake stayed silent. No verses, no tweets, no backup. The same Drake who said, "Thank me later," didn't even say thank you back when the man who put him on was drowning. Again, it's not about dissing Drake. It's about painting the picture. Wayne was isolated, mentally, financially, emotionally, cut off from his art, from his allies, from the love. How's he supposed to write the next A Milli when the label that owns his music won't even let him release it? And this brings us back to the Carter 6. Why does it sound off? Why does it feel like the old Wayne is trying to come back, but the spark's missing? Because he's been drained, manipulated, controlled, blocked. And even when he tried to break free, the scars were already there. It's hard to cook in the kitchen when the pantry's been raided, the stove's broken, and everyone else already ate your meal. So now here we are. Wayne finally fought through the lawsuits, got his masters, cashed out. In 2020, he sold his entire Young Money catalog, including his own music, Drake's early work, and Nicki Minaj's classics, for $100 million. And on the surface, that sounds like a win. But if you're paying attention, That sounds like a man cashing out not because he wants to, but because he has to. Wayne wasn't just selling music. He was selling decades of his life, his bloodline, his legacy, because the industry never gave him the payout he earned in real time. He's been retroactively fighting for what he should have had all along. And let's be honest, if you've been in the game since you were a kid, and all you know is touring, lawsuits, betrayal, and being used up, you don't even know what retirement looks like. You don't know what peace feels like. A flash without the fire. That line keeps echoing, man. Because what we're seeing on Carter 6, that's exactly it. The image is there, the look, the name, but the flame? The hunger? It's flickering. This ain't 2008 Wayne, this isn't dedication to Wayne. This is a version of Wayne still trying to make art in an industry that burned the art out of him. And that's what Pusha T saw coming. That's what he was warning us about. He wasn't beefing, he was forecasting. But we were too busy calling it hate to hear the truth in the verse. And don't get it twisted. Wayne still got skill. The man can still spit. His legacy is untouchable. But that legacy came at a price. He gave us decades of bangers, features, mixtapes, world tours. And what did the industry give him? Exploitation, silence, lawsuits, a slap in the face from the very man who called him son. Wayne's not washed, he's weathered. And that's a different kind of pain. So what now? Wayne's back on tour, still hitting stages, still delivering. But the music? It ain't about music anymore. It's business. That's the poison in the industry right now. Artists come in to create, but get turned into products. And when the product stops selling, they get thrown out like last season's merch. If you're lucky, you survive it. If you're Wayne, you survive in spite of it. Tap like if you feel this. Hit subscribe if you know this isn't just about Wayne, it's about every artist who ever got chewed up by the system and kept pushing anyway. So let's tie this all together. Wayne wasn't lazy. Wayne didn't fall off. Wayne got worn down by bad contracts, fake family ties, and an industry that pretends to love you until you're no longer profitable. And when the Carter 6 dropped and didn't hit like the classics, that wasn't a surprise. That was the result of years of betrayal, of being shelved, of having to fight your own father figure in court just to be heard. Pusha T saw this storm forming a decade ago. He told us, line for line, that this would happen. That if you chain a great artist to a broken system, you'll still get the flash, but the fire? It'll burn out. And if we keep ignoring it, we'll keep losing our best artists, not to violence, not to irrelevance, but to the grind itself. This video wasn't about starting drama. It was about finishing a conversation the culture left halfway done. And every up-and-coming rapper out there, let this be the blueprint of what not to fall into. Because if it can happen to Wayne, it can happen to anybody. If this hit you in the chest, or made you pause and rethink how the music biz really works, tap that like button. It's free, it's fast, and it tells the algorithm you're rocking with truth over hype. And while you're here, smash that subscribe. We're not done. Next up, we're diving into how Cash Money, Young Money, and OVO played a quiet chess game for years, and why one wrong move almost ended the empire. You don't want to miss that. Until then, stay sharp, stay loud, and remember, flash without fire is just a flicker. But real heat changes the game forever. Peace.